Hi guys, this is Josh with J Show Horror back again. Today I want to talk to you guys about Buffy the complete second season. Now this review will have tons of spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, if you've never seen this show, just go out and watch this show. It's a great show. This season does kind of start off from the end of the first season where some of the vampires are trying to they take the master's bones and they want to resurrect the master, which that first episode was a pretty good episode to get started on the season. Now overall this season I think the first half is a little rocky, just like season 1. It's a little hit and miss the first half, but by around the middle of this season I think the show starts to hit a stride. I think the show starts firing on all cylinders. I think the acting is top notch in the second half. I think some of the writing, there's some very great story arcs in the second half of season 2. I honestly think like the second half, if you just took the second half of this season, this would be like a super great just season of television. But since you got the whole season, pretty good season overall. Really good season. And the season does a lot of great things too. This is the season where we get introduced to Spike and Drusilla. And we also get introduced to Oz, Oz does end up being a werewolf, and Seth Green plays Oz, and I really like Seth Green, so that was really cool to have him on this show. Even early on in the season, there's some really fun episodes, like Halloween I thought was a really fun one where everyone who bought a costume, like some of the people actually literally turn into what their costume is. So like Buffy and Xander, they flip roles, like kind of where like Buffy's playing the really weak one. She's like a 19th century woman, and then Xander is like a military dude. But this episode, the Halloween episode, you find out there's more to Giles and what he leads on. He does have a backstory. He has a past before he ever met Buffy. And this is the first episode where you really start to see that. And the man he knows, Ethan, calls him the Ripper. So like I was really intrigued by all this. It was a really funny episode too. So yeah, Halloween was a pretty good episode early on in the season. But I want to tell you guys my top favorite episodes of season 2 and some of the reasons why I love these episodes and why I like some of these episodes are just like amazing episodes, not of Buffy but also just of television itself. There's some great writing, some great character development, everything. But one of my favorite episodes is Lie to Me. This is the episode where like Giles locks himself in the house. Buffy wants to know what's going on with Giles, and there's a dead body that turned up, and Giles goes to look at the dead body and there's a tattoo. Giles has this tattoo too. You find out later on he keeps trying to hide it from Buffy. He's trying to solve this case himself, but of course Buffy finally gets to him. Come to find out, Giles and his friends like literally created a demon, and this demon will possess people, and the demon will kill them from the inside. And he does get into Jennifer Calendar. Now, Giles has been dating her, and she's actually a really good side character they introduced late in season 1. But she gets possessed, Angel and Buffy comes in, and of course, I like that Angel tells the demon to go into him, and then Angel literally fights the demon inside him with his own demon. I thought it was really cool how they defeated him. But I thought the acting was really great in this. I like that there's a lot more to Giles, and this is the first episode where you start to see that. He's not just a librarian or just a watcher. He had a life before he ever got into Buffy's life. And I thought this was just a great episode overall. Another episode I love is called Innocence. Now this episode I think is like one of the best episodes of television. This is the episode where this is right after where Buffy and Angel they tell each other they love each other, they sleep together. And then at the end of that episode, Angel starts yelling for Buffy, and there's something going on with Angel, and it cuts to credits. So Innocence starts right off from there. I think this is such a great episode. And this is a particular episode, I think, of this show that actually got me completely hooked. But Angel ends up turning bad. He loses his soul. and you don't know why he lost his soul yet. You'll find out later, but he loses his soul. He ends up being like the villain of this episode. He actually, for me, he ends up being the villain of the rest of the season. Yes, Spike and Drusilla are there, but for me, Angel is like the true villain of season 2, and I love it for that because I grew to really care about Angel and Buffy's relationship, and it was kind of heartbreaking to see them get together and then immediately it was all ripped apart. I just thought that was really great writing. Like, these characters can never be happy, and I think that's part of the reason why the show's so good, because they think they're going to be happy for a moment and then it gets all ripped away. Buffy is trying to deal with losing her virginity, falling in love, and then getting it all ripped away in an instant. And she goes back to Angel's house and Angel's there and she has a conversation with Angel. And Angel just treats her so bad in this scene. And I think the acting is so great from Sarah Michelle Gellar and David Boreanaz. I think David Boreanaz did such a great job of playing good Angel. And then he flipped a switch and he played such a sinister, evil Angel when he has no soul. And I thought he did a perfect job.
Was I not good?
You were great. Really. I thought you were a pro.
I love you.
Love you too.
And Angel's the type who doesn't want to kill you instantly. He would rather mess with you mentally and make you crazy. Angel does show up at the school, but he literally goes to the school to kill all of Buffy's friends. You know, Willow, Xander. I think this is the episode where you found out, too, that Jenny Calendar, a character I was already liking. She was a great character, but she was actually part of the gypsies that cursed Angel. So that added a lot of tension to the season that I thought was a great ingredient added to this. And I thought Sarah Michelle Gellar's acting was so good in this episode. And her heart's broken, but she still has to go fight the fight with her friends and keep her friends alive. And she's trying to do all that while dealing with this too. I just thought this was an amazing episode. Innocence is definitely one of my favorites of this season. And another one I loved in this season is Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered. After a few string of episodes that were like kind of making me mad, especially after Innocence and all that episode and stuff, we got an episode after a few depressing episodes. We kind of got one of those really goofy, silly, funny episodes. Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered. Now, this was a Valentine's Day set episode. At the beginning, Xander and Cordelia, they kind of break up, and that's another thing I love about the season is they brought those two together like the least. Like, they kind of hated each other, but they somehow end up together. It was just kind of funny to me, but it ended up working. And they break up in this episode. And, of course, Xander finds the girl from the first season, the cheerleading episode, the witch episode. He finds that girl, and he says, your mom was a witch, and he finds out she was a witch. And he kind of tries to blackmail her into, he like forces her to do a love spell on Cordelia so she likes him again or loves him again. And it really backfires. This episode ended up being really funny. It was a great breakup of the tension of the last few episodes. I found this episode to be hilarious. Like, literally every woman in town became obsessed or fell in love with Xander. There were some great scenes in this episode. Even Miss Calendar got involved. Buffy's mom got involved. Literally the whole town, except Cordelia, which is funny. She wasn't acting obsessed, but she was still in love with Xander, so that's why it actually didn't affect her. It just affected everybody, all the other women in town. And then everybody's acting was so funny. Miss Calendar was starting to hit on Xander. Then the scene with Buffy was hilarious. She comes in there in the library with basically wearing nothing but a jacket. She's like literally attacking Xander. And Xander's like, we can't do this. This is not the way I would want this with you. There was a great scene with Willow too. She was like in his bed when he got home. I just found this episode to be hilarious. And I love when like everybody in town starts running towards Xander and Willow has the axe and she says, all you had to do was love me, and even Buffy's mom got involved. So yeah, that was a very fun episode.
I love you so much. I'd rather see you dead than with that bitch.
And then another top-notch episode of this season was Passion. And you find out, you get more of what happened to Angel, how he lost his soul. If Angel experiences a moment of true happiness, so he had a true moment of happiness with Buffy the night they slept together, and that's why he lost his soul. And of course, Jenny Calendar gets involved, and she still is trying to make up for all this, being a part of this. Jenny does find out that there is a curse or a chant or whatever to get Angel's soul back, and I found this episode to be very suspenseful. Angel shows up at the school. Jenny puts all this information on a floppy disk. The floppy disk gets left in between her desk and file cabinet. And Angel shows up at the school and he says, I know you want to get my soul back, but I don't want that. And there's a great, really suspenseful scene of Angel chasing Mrs. Calendar through the school, and he ultimately ends up snapping her neck. And for me, this was the real death of this whole series. She was a character I really liked, and it was really hard to see her die. There was one episode I didn't like her when you first found out she was part of Gypsies, but she was really starting to make it up, and it was kind of a sad death for this series when she died. And of course, Giles loses it. He wants to get revenge. After Angel kills Jenny, he literally puts her at his house and makes him think she's upstairs waiting for him in the bed, and she was, but she was dead. And the way Angel did all this was really heartbreaking, and it was so sad to see the way Giles reacted. And of course, Giles goes and tries to go and kill Angel at the factory. And Buffy shows up and saves Giles because he couldn't fight all three of them, Spike, Drusilla, and Angel. In that moment where Buffy hugs him at the end outside and she said, what are you doing? I can't do this by myself. And she's hugging him.
Are you trying to get yourself killed? You can't leave me. I can't do this alone.
Loved all that. Great character development, great writing. And then, of course, the episode ends with them at Mrs. Calendar's grave. I just thought Passion was a great episode overall. Very suspenseful, very sad also at the same time, but this definitely was one of my all-time favorites of this season. The last episode I want to mention of this season is Becoming Part 1 and 2. This is the season finale. And I usually like season finales because they're going for a bigger story, and a lot of stuff kind of gets paid off in this episode. Angel wants to bring this demon out and literally bring hell to Earth. And there's a lot of great stuff in this. You got some flashbacks from when Angel first turned into a vampire, and then it kind of jumps through time up until present day. And he actually was literally doing nothing with his life. He wasn't killing people, but there was this demon Whistler who shows up and he says there is a Slayer, and Angel starts watching Buffy when she was in LA, and Angel decides, yes, I want to help this girl, and he actually starts to get in a fight with Buffy because he wanted to change his life. He didn't just want to live, but he wanted to do some good stuff with his life. And this is a two-parter, and there was a episode earlier, or a two-parter earlier in the season where they introduced another Slayer, because there was another Slayer because Buffy died for a few minutes in season 1, so they called up another Slayer. And her name was Kendra. I actually loved the dynamic between Kendra and Buffy in that two-part episode early on. And I loved their dynamics and everything. I thought she was a great character. I loved her from the get-go. I kind of wish Kendra was in a lot more episodes.
Who am I? You attacked me. Who the hell are you?
I'm Kendra, the vampire slayer.
But she did show back up in Becoming Part 1, and Drusilla shows up at the library and they take Giles and Drusilla kills Kendra. That kind of sucked because she was a character I really wanted to see more of. I didn't think she was in enough, but they really do carry over kind of like the two Slayer dynamic with Faith in season 3. But at the end of Becoming Part 1, Buffy finds Kendra's body and then the police show up, but she of course escapes the police, and Becoming Part 2 is ultimately Angel, Spike, and Drusilla. They're trying to bring hell on earth. They're trying to awake this demon. And they have Giles, and they are literally... Angel was torturing Giles for hours and hours. And it was just a heartbreaking scene because Drusilla made Giles see Miss Calendar again. So he thought he was seeing Miss Calendar. That was a great, really well done scene. And ultimately, this episode ended with Buffy and Angel fighting. And also, Willow was in the hospital. She wanted to do the spell to bring Angel's soul back. So as soon as she gets Angel's soul back, Buffy and Angel has a little conversation. They say they love each other again, but Angel's blood is the blood that opened up the gate, and his blood had to close the gate too. So this was like a really heartbreaking scene. Buffy got Angel back, but she knew she had to kill him, and she literally stuck a sword in him, and then that closed the vortex or hell coming in to Sunnydale. So that was a really heartbreaking episode, a really well written episode. And it ended with Buffy leaving town. She didn't even say bye to her friends. Of course, they were all worried. And it ended with Buffy leaving town. That was a great ending to this season. It really wanted me to watch the very next episode, the next season. But overall, yeah, this was a pretty good season. Little rocky first half, but I think it had an amazing second half. And this is the season, and especially the episode Innocence, definitely made me fall in love with this show, and I want to watch every episode all the way to the end. But yeah, season 2 of Buffy's ended up being a really good season. So yeah, love season 2. Great season. So yeah, guys, in the comments down below, tell me what some of your favorite episodes of season 2 are, and tell me overall if you love season 2. And I will be definitely doing a review of season 3 really soon, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.